Gents, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing okay. The 6 non-negotiable habits of successful men. Habit number 1, physical training. Now look, some people make out that physical training is the be-all and end-all, the most important thing. I don't think it is. I think there's much more to being a successful guy than just your training. However, that doesn't negate the fact that it is extremely important as a man, that you are engaging in some kind of physical training on a regular basis. It's very important, and probably more important than ever, to be in good condition. If you look at the dating landscape, if you look at the competitive world that we live in, guys that are not in good shape don't even get noticed, they don't even get looked at. So it's very important that, you are making sure that you are in good physical condition. You're making sure that you're lifting weights, you're building a muscular physique. And, on the flip side as well, you got to be taking care of your health. We can talk about, wanting to be in good shape for the benefits that might come from that on a societal level. But more importantly than that, you need to be a guy in good condition with good health. It gives you so much energy, gives you so much enhanced focus. Guys that are out of shape are often far more tired than guys that are in shape. And, despite the guys in shape working harder and pushing themselves further in a physical sense, they're less tired than the guys that sit there on their ass doing nothing. And that's a strange thing to wrap your head around. But actually, getting involved in intense physical training and pushing yourself improves your fitness. It improves your heart health. It improves the functionality of your vital organs. Sitting there resting doesn't strengthen them. Doesn't at all. Sitting there on the couch eating donuts, it puts you in the other way. Puts you going the other way, the other direction rather. So it's very important. Take care of your body. Physical training is a great way that you can do that. You can build real strength. You can build a real masculine physique, an attractive physique, and a physique that will help you, There may be times where your friend's moving house, or you've got to help your mum out with something, or your dad out with something, and, they're getting old, they can't do it anymore, and they need you to do the heavy lifting. Do you want to be the guy who's incapable of helping out because he didn't take the time to go and work on himself and get in the gym and start physical training of some sort? No. You want to be the guy that people can rely on, and a part of that is getting in the gym and lifting weights. Again, we don't have to go crazy. We don't have to go down the Goggins route and push yourself to the point of absolute burnout. No. But you mustn't be a guy who just looks average. You need to be a guy who's wearing a t-shirt and people can say, oh, I can see that he goes to the gym. Maybe he's not the biggest guy on earth, but I can see he trains. Fair play. You want to at least be that guy. And look, there are so many mental benefits to physical training as well. It's not just a physical thing, a social thing. Exercise quite literally produces positive endorphins, which, in some sense within the body, make you feel quite literally happier. They relieve stress, they reduce anxiety, and they increase your confidence. So, just doing a few times a week. I'm not a massive advocate for 5 or 6 times a week training, because to be honest, when you train overly frequently, and if you're training to a high intensity, you're not actually giving your muscles the necessary time to recover. So I'd always say at least, 3 times a week, but ideally 4, maybe 5 sometimes. But you want to be 3 or 4 times a week in the gym, lifting, heavy, doing some cardio as well at one point. That's very important. And then giving your muscles a chance to recover. But look, there are guys that have never stepped foot in a gym before, that do not know the benefits. It is truly life-changing. And look, if you're listening to this right now and you've not been in the gym and you've not lifted heavy weights before, I recommend it to you. Not just because of the physical changes that you're going to notice, but the social changes. You'll notice that people are giving you more respect. Maybe you're getting more female attention as well. But, on par with the other two, the mental benefits, you are going to feel so much better about yourself. And that is going to affect every area of your life. Everything affects everything. So you're in good shape. It's going to affect your ability to get up feeling less groggy, to put in the extra work when you're at work, to push yourself that little bit further because you're fitter and your mind is stronger as well. This is another thing. Habit number 2, learning new skills. It is very important, as a guy, not to get lost in your job, not to get lost in your main responsibilities and stop your growth outside of that. You may work for a company right now, you may be working really hard, you may be doing a really good job for them, but you've got to ask yourself, are you improving outside of that? Because look, the reality is the company that you're at, if all of a sudden you drop dead tomorrow, they would have a replacement for you within a week. Maybe a few people are sad, but ultimately business moves on. Now, if you're just working and turning up and doing the same thing all the time and you're not doing anything, outside of that to become more skillful, then, you're essentially remaining in this stagnant position. Whereas, the most successful guys understand the importance of, yes, turning up and doing something that will help them build professionally, so turning up to a job, but also becoming more skillful. So if there is a particular course that you can take that is relevant to your field of work that can get you an additional qualification, go and do it. Go and take it. Upskill yourself, right? You don't want to be finding yourself, going into next year in a similar position to this year, just because you didn't take the time within the free time that you do have to learn new skills. Now, look, this doesn't necessarily need to be professional. We can be talking about soft skills. We can be talking about social skills. We can also be talking about, artistic skills, such as learning an instrument, picking up a guitar and doing a few lessons a week, or an hour a week of just practicing, listening to a video on YouTube, playing a few chords, and then going on from there. But essentially, the most successful guys understand the importance of always developing, always learning new skills. This can be another language, for example. You can go on Duolingo. There's an app that you can get on your phone called Duolingo. There's also multiple different apps where you can speak to other people who maybe want to learn the language that you speak, and in exchange you can speak to them in the language that they speak, and you can both learn from each other for free. With the internet and the way that the online world works now, the accessibility to information has never been easier. So look, take advantage of that and go and learn these skills, because these soft skills can help you personally and professionally. There's a study that says that people that speak, more than one language, on average, earn £10,000 or $10,000 more per year, just because they can communicate in another language. And for example, let's say you're working a job, maybe you're in sales, maybe, you're working within a sales team, within a company. Your ability to go and speak Spanish may well open a Spanish market that doesn't exist. The company is going to take you far more seriously because, they see within you that you can open up a completely new market for them and help them to grow in a completely different direction to that of which they previously anticipated. So as you're more valuable to them, they will probably be more likely to reciprocate that value and give more back to you. And this just came through something that you thought, flip it, why not give it a go? Why not just try and learn a new skill? There's no harm. There really is no harm. Learn the new skill that is just something interesting. It adds a string to your bow. It adds something to your arsenal. Don't be the guy who just allows time to pass by, the start of next year is the same as the year before, and the year before that, and the year before that. Maybe professionally, every couple of years he's getting a promotion, but he's not really improving in the way that he could be. Habit number 3, saving and investing, or learning to save and invest. It's so important for men in 2026 with the ever-changing financial situation and the volatility of global finances to develop some understanding, some basic understanding of using their money in an effective way. You know, you don't have to be a trader who is constantly looking at, you know, the trades every single day, assessing the markets, looking at his options. No, you don't need to do that. But, you know, a lot of guys are walking around with a very, very poor understanding of finances. They're spending their money in ways that are just destructive, quite frankly. You know, wasting it on gambling, hundreds of pounds every single week. They get their paycheck and they're straight to the bookies, or it's going straight on Bet365 and some of these platforms, and they never see it again. You know, or indeed they're just popping their money in a bank account when, you know, the bank that they're working with doesn't have a very good ROI. You know, they could look for alternative bank accounts which give better return on investment. You know, a higher percentage of interest that is paid to you. You know, one thing I'd recommend this is not financial advice, this is just things that I have learned myself. But one thing I'd recommend for you guys that, you know, you've got some money saved up is try and put it somewhere where it's going to grow. You know, you've obviously got your volatile investments like crypto, which I would always say never try and put a large amount. If you can afford to lose it, don't put it in crypto. But you've got to look at, over the past 20 years, there are stock options that every single year have increased and increased and increased and increased and increased. You know, that's probably a better option than just sticking it in your Nationwide bank account. I've got nothing against Nationwide, great bank, but you know, you want to be putting your money somewhere where it's going to grow. Now, look, you've got to accept when you invest your money, there's going to be some moments where it's from this to this. And you may think, oh, it's a little bit shaky, but you've got to look at it from a zoomed out perspective. Over the period of 10 years, are you really going to notice the little drop in January or the little drop in October or December? No, you're probably not. You're probably going to look at the bigger picture and the huge percentage that you have gained. So start thinking long term and, you know, try and ask yourself, and we're not perfect, we're all going to make mistakes in this regard. I definitely have and probably will going forward. But got to ask yourself, is what I'm putting my money in serving me? You know, is this investment, is this, you know, expense that I'm about to incur going to be something that serves future me well? If it's not, then maybe that's something to consider. All right. So, you know, start looking at different options. If you're a guy that's never invested before, start looking at, you know, relatively safe stock options. I mean, there's stocks and shares ISAs that, you know, have nice returns. This is stuff I do myself. Obviously, be careful with the crypto. Be careful with the meme coins because, you know, that's where you can lose a lot of money very quickly. You can also gain a lot of money very quickly. But at the same time, you want to be careful because you don't want to be putting money in volatile areas that you can really afford to lose. So never do that. Again, not financial advice, YouTube. Please don't censor this video. I'm just talking from my own experience. Again, so yeah, don't be allowing, you know, your money to just sit there and be stagnant, because if you're not getting good returns, you got to remember as well, with inflation, every single year money becomes less valuable. So if your money's not growing, it's actually shrinking. You know, if you leave £500 in a bank account and you let it sit there, it's going to be £500 5 years from now. But that £500 does not have the same value 5 years from now as it does today. But if you put it in an account that allows it to grow, if you invest it somewhere, I don't know, silver, if you put it in stocks or something like that, it's going to increase in value. You know? So that's something to think about. Habit number 4, taking care of your grooming and your style, it is important that, as a man in 2026, again, it's hyper competitive, to make sure that you are looking sharp, to make sure that you are looking fresh. Now, again, when you're in home and you're relaxing, hey, no problem. You want to wear your cozy clothes, you want to wear something comfortable, no problem at all. But look, if you're going out to an event, it is important to be dressed appropriately for the event. Now, look, most guys in 2026 don't dress well. So you may rock up to an event and everybody is dressed in this sort of casual, baggy clothing way. That still doesn't mean that you are not dressed for the event. Or that still doesn't mean, rather, that you are dressed for the event. Just because everybody else is dressed in that way doesn't make it right. A lot of people have dropped their standards in relation to their presentation. You need to be the guy that starts to raise those standards again. You need to be the guy that rocks up looking sharp, looking smart, clothing that is well fitted, a nice pair of trousers, a nice pair of shoes, maybe a nice pair of boots, and a shirt with a belt and maybe a quarter zip or something like that, or a nice jacket. It doesn't have to be suit and tie. There is a time and a place for that. But you want to be a guy who walks into a room and people go, you know what, I like that. That's old school. That guy looks sharp. That guy looks like he gives a shit. Because it makes the event look more important because you are respecting it with what you wear. Now look, when you go to the gym, fine. Wear something comfy. Wear something practical, okay? When you are out and about on a walk, maybe with your friend or your dog or whatever, you don't have to be wearing the suit and tie, but you got to ask yourself, look, does what I'm wearing currently empower me? Does it make me feel better? It's a weird question to ask, I know, because we think, oh, it's just clothes. Well, actually, no, clothes can really make you feel like a different man, depending on what you're wearing. If you're wearing really baggy, unfitted clothes and you just look like a mess walking out the house, you feel that way. But if you're wearing clothes that really fit nicely to your body, you look sharp, you look presentable, you feel like a sharp, presentable, respectable man. So even when you're going out and about for, casual walks, etc., obviously look dressed for the occasion. If you're going out to a really muddy woodland, don't be wearing your nice smart shoes, but at the same time, can you take a little bit more care with what you're wearing on a day-to-day basis? Can you look a little bit sharper? A nice jacket, a nice pair of jeans, a nice pair of trousers. It's something to think about as well, because you don't know who you're going to bump into. You might bump into somebody and have an interesting conversation when you're on a dog walk or when you've gone to a new city to visit for the day. And, somebody very important may speak to you on the back of the way that you present yourself. But on the flip side, they might not even look at you if you look like, most young guys do. This sort of chavvy, baggy dressing. I know it's meant to be like a form of empowerment for guys, wearing the flary joggers, because it kind of shows that you don't care. It kind of shows that you're a relaxed guy, but it actually shows in certain environments a lack of respect. And subsequently, the old school generation particularly, they won't even approach guys like that because they think this guy doesn't even respect himself. He's not going to respect me. Okay, so it is important to take care of your grooming and your style, making sure that you are presentable. Haircuts, I'd say within a 3-week period, it can get expensive now. These barbers are charging a lot. But try and make sure that you're not looking like a mess and dress for the environment. Not dress to impress. There's a sense of that, but dress appropriately for the environment. And try and be the guy with the highest standards. All right? Try and be the guy who people are, not staring at, not, you don't want to be out of place wearing a tuxedo at a networking event, but be a guy who just looks sharp, who looks like he respects the environment. It will bring you a lot. Habit number 5, networking. Now, there is an expression that your network is your net worth. Essentially what that means is, look, the people that you network with, the people that you hang around with are an indication of, the amount of money you make or your value to the marketplace, your perceived value anyway. it's really important, especially as a young guy looking to make waves and to build a successful life and a successful career, to network with people who are successful themselves. You want it to be that you've got friends that you can call who, are doing great things, making good money, having a positive impact, preferably, employing people. You want to be around these sorts of people because their habits and the things that they do will rub off on you. If you're just hanging around with guys and you're just networking with guys who haven't really done much, don't have much ambition, don't have any, achievements, don't have any aspiration at all to have any achievements, then us humans are products of our environment. There is a study that basically says you will be alike to the people that you hang around with. You are a product of, I believe, the 5 closest people to you. So again, if you live with 15 people in a house and they all smoke, you are very likely to start smoking. You would do very well, according to the data, to not smoke. Now, there are people that will fight against that. There are people that will be an outlier and they will not give in to that sort of negative peer pressure, or they will not cave to the habits of others. But it is true that, if your friends act a certain way consistently and you're around them a lot of the time, you're more likely to act a certain way. So let's take this to our advantage and start hanging around with people that are behaving in a way that we admire, that have lives that we admire. And this doesn't just have to be in a professional capacity. This can be networking with somebody who has a very, very happy marriage and can give you some great advice about relationships, serious relationships. This can be networking with somebody who has a similar passion to you on the side of their work. They have a similar side hustle to you, and you can both bounce ideas off each other and you can learn from their successes, from their failures. It's essentially important to develop a network of people who are doing things or have done things that you want to do at some point or another. Now, how do you get there in a practical sense if you're a guy that doesn't have these connections? I mean, it can start off with very simple things like sending people a message on LinkedIn, connecting with them, saying, I love what you do. It'd be great to speak to you at some point. Instagram, there's different tools like this. Comment on people's social media pages. But there's also groups that are certain creators or certain people who have done substantial things within their area of expertise will create, where you have a group of guys that, get together and bounce ideas off each other. This is something that I regularly invest in myself because I understand the importance of having a good network. And, good people know good people. So the chances are, if you put yourself in an environment like that, you're going to be exposed to even better people, even more people. It's something that I really recommend. Build your network. Build your network and make sure it's the right network. Speak and be around people who have a life and have things and have a day-to-day that you respect and that you would like similar to yourself one day. And finally, habit number 6, invest in your education beyond your work and study. Okay, look, on a practical level, what this looks like is outside of your work, be sure that you are reading. Be sure that you are buying books, buying courses that are relevant to the thing that you want to improve at. Okay? If you're a guy who is looking to maybe on the side do some kind of freelance coding work or do some kind of freelance AI work for some companies, it's very important that maybe you are learning the necessary skills of the day. Buy the course, buy the book, buy the program, invest in the mentor. Successful men understand the importance of consistently growing, consistently expanding on their current understanding. Because if you're just sat there doing nothing and you're just sat there going to work, or if you're a student studying, but on the side, for your side projects, you're not doing any extra work. Well, very possibly somebody else who has the same goals as you, somebody else who's interested in the same side hustle as you, is actively investing in themselves. And look, when it comes down to at some point an opportunity arising and that person wanting to take the opportunity versus you wanting to take the opportunity, they're going to get the opportunity. And they're going to be better equipped to deal with that opportunity because they invested in their education. Now, this links similarly to the second habit that I mentioned in this video, learning new skills. Learning a new language, bettering your social skills, maybe learning an instrument that may, impress people or open some doors for you. But, your education is also vital. It is important that you are bettering your understanding. There's lots of great books on there about relationships, lots of books on there about dating relationships, psychology, money, lots and lots and lots of different things, history. Think about it like this, that one chapter that you read of that spontaneous book that just caught your eye in the bookshop or just caught your eye on Amazon may well put you in conversation with an extremely successful person who on the back of that may give you an opportunity. That random fact that, you knew because you opened that history book that everybody else around you said was boring may well get you a job. You just don't know. You just don't know. It's so important that, when most guys are just turning up and doing the job and going home and sleeping, and going home and swiping and going home and doing nothing, that you are the guy who takes a short amount of time every single day to improve your knowledge, to improve your skills and to improve your understanding. It will take you very, very far. Okay, look, guys, I hope you took some value from today's video. Again, the 6 habits of successful men, physical training, ensuring that you're not in bad shape and ensuring that you are, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind. It has so many benefits, mentally, physically, socially. Make sure you get it done. Learning new skills, putting yourself in a position where, you just have an extra string to your bow, something else in your arsenal, that wacky, weird skill that you never thought you'd know, but you know. Playing a guitar, learning a new language. Number 3, look, saving, investing, ensuring that you're not, financially unaware. Ask yourself, is my money in a good place? Could I put it in a place that's going to make it grow more? If you can, then, start looking into it. Don't take my word for it. Start looking into good options. 4, grooming style. Ensure that you are, well groomed. Ensure that you are looking fresh. Ensure that you are dressed for the occasion. Networking. Make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people who have a life that you want at some point. And finally, invest in your education. Invest in your education. Read the books, buy the course, invest in the mentorship program. These are things that are going to pay you very well in the long term. Okay, look guys, if you did take some value from this video today, I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you're new around here. And also look, if you have subscribed for a while, be sure to share this video with a friend. It's referrals like that that help this channel to grow and reach a wider audience. That would be really appreciated. Again, look, if you want to work with me on a one-to-one basis, I do offer my one-to-one coaching. There is a link down below in the description of this video. Simply click on the link and book your free 30-minute call so we can see if we are a good match for each other, and then we can go from there. Anyway, guys, as always, thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I'll see you in the next one.